I'm Matt Valley, and welcome to episode number 121 of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the research and insights pros that you trust. Well, I'm very excited today to welcome Rob Klein to the program. Now, Rob, very interesting. Oh, yeah, now you're talking. Now, Rob started his career with venerable old school names in the research industry, companies like Market Strategies International and Elrick and Lavidge, which was purchased by TNS while you're there. Really good old school names, but along the way, Rob decided to put up his own shingle. He started his own consultancy called Klein Partners, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And that was actually 20 years ago. So the business is going really strong, focused on healthcare, broad base of solutions and business questions that they address, working primarily in the healthcare space. So good on you for that. Now, an interesting factoid here is that Rob's wife, Toni, is also an integral part of the business. Had a wonderful career on the client side in marketing with companies like AT&T and VMware. Now she's part of the business. And I mentioned that because you and Toni together have embarked on this hobby in recent years, doing it together. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's podcast. So welcome to the show, Rob.
Oh, Matt, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited to have you. It's always good to have Chicagoan on. See, I'm wearing my Chicago glasses. So
I know.
Got the flag there.
Thank you.
Keeping it real, that's how I do.
Thanks for representing.
All right. Now, before we jump in, if anybody's seen a recent episode of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, I have been utilizing this thing called Magic Mind Performance Enhancement Shot. Really good stuff. Clears my head, gives me lots of energy, sets me up for the day. I want to have as good a podcast as possible, Rob. So I'm going to go down the hatch with this and I'm going to get started. Here we go.
Where's mine?
Good stuff. Well, it's funny because you can go to magicmind.com/rock and roll and use the code rock and roll 20 to get yourself a nice discount. So check it out.
Nice.
There you go.
All I have is my mango dragon fruit refresher from Starbucks. So.
Not bad. But
yeah.
if you're looking to
not very rock and roll, but it's tasty.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Rob. Let's get started. So talk about always the great question, how did you first get into insights, and then take us up to what you're doing now.
All righty. Well, it's been 40 years. So I've been in market research for 40 years now. So I don't know if I'm old school or just old. So, but I was back in the late 70s, early 80s. I had my undergrad at Michigan State University in marketing, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then junior year, I had to take this class called market research. I'm like, oh God, another class I'm going to try to get out of. And I took my first class, and Dr. Sam Carter, I'll never forget him because he changed my life. He was the professor, and I had one class, and I'll never forget this. I remember going back to my dorm room afterwards, and I called my mom, and I said, "You're not going to believe this. I know what I want to do with my career now. I want to be a market researcher."
Wow.
And she said, "Thank God, I was getting really worried about it."
So this is like undergrad? You sorted this out?
Undergrad.
Wow.
Like, 20 years old, I take one market research class. The funny thing is, and those that know me will know this is true, I took almost 6 years to go to undergrad, kind of like very Animal House-like. But I was having too much fun. But it's the only class that I didn't skip. And I got a 4-point. I got the highest grade point, highest score in the class.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I found what I want to do. I fell in love with it instantly. And, I'm not, I don't know if I can even tell you an exact reason. I love the left brain statistics side of it. I love the right brain creative side. In fact, I went back a few years after I graduated and I got a master's degree in advertising from Michigan State.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I ended up teaching graduate level market research at Michigan State in the communications
Yeah.
group. So I like the right brain side of advertising, but I also like the left brain. So I'm a stats guy and a moderator. So which is
Yeah.
again, it's a rare breed to do both.
Love it.
So I just was all in on it. So I wanted to do everything. When I first started, I feel like, your dad said, oh, I walked to school uphill both ways, But when I started, computers really, we were on little Tandy computers, the little gray box, from Radio Shack.
Yeah.
And when we did sampling, we still did Caddy. In fact, it was before Caddy. We just had people on phones. We had a room where people were with phone books. We had thousands of phone books, and they would grab a phone book for that market, and they'd roll a die, and every nth,
Yes.
we were doing
Yes,
that. Every
yes.
nth number, they would highlight that and then make a copy of that page, and then that became the sample frame for that night's calling. So, I mean, when you talk to young researchers today, they can't even comprehend that effort.
Yeah, it's going way back.
It is. So, but I was very fortunate. I've worked, as you kind of alluded to, I've worked for 3 of the largest market research firms in the world, Market Strategies, which is now, I believe, called Escalante. Yep. I was one of the first folks they hired. That was a spinoff from Market Opinion Research in Detroit. They were the largest Republican polling firm in the world. So I got to do a lot of polling and see how that worked. I remember one time that Newt Gingrich called. I was working on a Saturday, and I answered the phone because our political guy, Fred Steeper, was there working. And I called and he goes, hey, this is Newt. Where's Fred? I'm like, oh, my God, Mr. Speaker, And then one time, the best time, this is so funny. I answered the phone, and the lady said, hi, this is so-and-so, the White House secretary. I have President Bush on the phone, the older one. I have President Bush on the phone for Fred Steeper. And I stand up like they can see me. And first I was thinking, oh, can I say hi? But, that would not have worked. They probably would have arrested me. So I said, one moment, please. I run down to the other end of the hall. Fred Steeper's in their typical political pollster. It's a Saturday morning. He's got a drink in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and he's going over tabs. Because that's how you rolled back then. Yeah. And I said, Fred, President Bush is on the phone for you. He looks up at me and he goes, what the hell does he want? And I'm like, I don't, you want me to ask? He's like, no, put him through. Like the president was bothering Fred from his data. So it's back when it's almost like Mad Men. Research had its Mad Men era too.
It did, yeah.
Where things happened a little differently than they do now. So it's kind of fun to have been able to live through as a young person, because a lot of the people that I got to know are the names. Like you mentioned Elrick and Lavidge. I got to sit down with Bob Lavidge and talk with him about what it was like in the old days. I mean, he developed the Lavidge-Steiner model. So he's well known. I learned my conjoint from Senior Srinivasan and Alan Shocker. I mean, the 2 godfathers of conjoint. Yep. I got to have dinner over at Senior Srinivasan's home in Palo Alto and talk about research in the old days. I mean, I feel so fortunate to have grown up when I did to be able to talk with these guys. I met Vern Churchill, from Market Facts. And so, getting to know the names on the door was really, I think, something that I think younger people don't have that access to, because those names on the door are all gone. Right. Just like in advertising, that same transition has happened. So again, working at Market Strategies, where I started the healthcare division back in, I think 1989 or 90. And then I moved to Chicago and worked for Int'l, and we got bought up by TNS. So now I'm working for the 2nd largest market research firm in the world, and I'm getting to work with people all over Europe and Australia and New Zealand. I got to meet and work with Dr. Yanni Hoffmeyer. He's the South African market researcher that created the conversion model. He became my mentor. And so I got to learn from him. And and spent time in Europe working. And I'll tell you, if you've ever been to Europe, and the researchers there, they just seem to be a little ahead of us. In fact, you look at WARC, look at IPA, those groups, the World Advertising Research Council and the Institute for Practitioners in Advertising. The research that the advertising and brand research that they do is head and shoulders above what I see associations in the U.S. doing. So getting exposure to those folks was an amazing time that I think helped me bring all of that knowledge back to the healthcare world.
Sure.
And so after I worked with ComScore a bit too, another top 10 research firm, very innovative in what they did. And I got to work with Jan Flagoni, Ajit Abraham, the guys from legends from IRI. Absolutely, again, other legends that I got to learn from, and I'm very happy that I had the presence of mind as a youngster to go to them and say, tell me what it was like. What did you learn when you were younger? It's like I didn't even do that with my parents. So there's a lot of my childhood and my family I don't know about because I didn't ask them. So fortunately, my career, I did. So it's given me a perspective well beyond my age. And so that really put me in a good position to start my own company. In fact, what I learned from the partners at Market Strategies, the Andy Morrisons, the Jan Browns, just legends in market research. They built Market Strategies from nothing to $100 million company. And so I would not have had my company without those folks. And I'm truly indebted to them. And so for 20 years, I've had Klein Partners, and we are focused solely on providing market research and brand consulting services to the healthcare sector. And by healthcare, I mean hospitals and health systems. We don't work with pharma and durable medical equipment and others about that. We're all in hospitals and health systems. And that's really where I want to be. I started out in banking in the early 80s, and then I was supposed to start the banking division at Market Strategies, and I couldn't get any banking clients. And all of a sudden I started accidentally getting healthcare clients because they were friends of mine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe there's something to this. Because remember, in healthcare advertising was kind of illegal before the 80s.
Totally.
It doesn't have the history. You just didn't do it. And so healthcare marketing is decades younger than every other industry marketing. And so exactly. I went to the partners and said, I think we should start a healthcare division. Fortunately, they were insightful enough too to say, we think you're right. And that's how I got into healthcare. It was truly by accident. By all shakes, I should be here talking about banking with you. And I'm not.
It's not by accident, though. It's about recognizing an opportunity in the market and seizing it, and then building an expertise around it. Right? Am I wrong?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's seeing things as an opportunity and pouncing on them. And as I tell people, I spent the last year working with friends who happen to be clients. Mm-hmm. In fact, when my wife Toni, as you alluded to, joined me 10 years ago, she came from high tech. She was at VMware, which is one of the largest cloud computing companies. In fact, when we got engaged, she called me from Las Vegas. They have their client meetings, conferences. They're small. They're only 20,000 people. And so she called me and she says, "You're not going to believe this. I just won Worldwide Marketer of the Year, and we've got a free trip to Hawaii." And I went, "Okay, I am marrying the right girl." So she said, "Don't get used to it. I'm only going to probably win this once." But that was really exciting. And I met a lot of people she worked with. But then when I convinced her to come work with me, because we missed being around each other, because we both traveled and we would pass each other in O'Hare Airport. And that's not how we wanted to live. I want to spend every minute I can with my best friend. So we decided to become partners. And she started coming to healthcare conferences. And one time she said to me, "Is everybody this nice?" And I went, "Yes. Now you know my secret." And that's why I love healthcare, because nobody's in it to be billionaires. Like everybody wants to write the next software and become Google, But right. In healthcare, there's an altruistic motive to being in healthcare, which is what I love. I can make a nice living, but we're doing something of social value with good people whose hearts are first. And that's why I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. I love healthcare. Sometimes it ebbs and flows like any other industry, but these are my friends and I want to stick with them through thick and thin. And it's just been the best 20-year run anybody could ask for. So
Yeah, and you know what? There's also some safety in a way because I think about different industries. Like everyone says, "Oh, we're so different." If you don't have experience in our industry, you can't work with us, kind of thing. That's more or less true depending on the situation, right? So I found that yeah, some industries are pretty easy to sort of slide on into, but healthcare, the stuff that you're doing, they start
it's
throwing
not
around
easy.
those
Yeah.
terms, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I find a lot
missed
of
my
times
opportunity here.
yeah, a lot of marketers will come in from other industries thinking they can fix healthcare and they last a year or two and they're like, oh, you people are crazy. So
It's something that you can really underestimate. So yeah,
oh yeah, and the complexity and
totally.
the
Yeah.
the morals and people's lives are truly somebody may be bleeding.
Yeah.
How they don't worry unless someone's bleeding. Well, someone may be bleeding in our industry, so the
Sure.
stakes are higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. All right. So you mentioned your wife, Toni, who I have had the good fortune to meet. So I can certainly vouch for her. She's wonderful and super sharp and all that good stuff. Now tell us about this hobby that the two of you
Yes.
embarked upon. I can kind of get a hint as I look
Yes,
through the corner
I'll
behind
try to move over just a little bit. You
you.
can see in the back corner, that's my music shop. So I, I've always loved guitar. And God, I'm in my early 60s, and I said, you know what? Why not? I'm going to learn guitar.
Totally.
And so I told Toni that, and she's like, I've always wanted to learn the drums. And I'm like, how did I not know this? And so we're like, okay, let's do it together. So I've been taking my guitar lessons, and Toni's been taking her drum lessons. In fact, we've been so busy at work, she got away from them for a while. But then Matt, you with sending pictures of your drum kits, you inspired her. So now she's back. She's got her first lesson back with her teacher Wednesday, the day after tomorrow. So I'm just going to go into the guitar shop with her, and I'm just going to try every guitar and play around while I'm waiting for her. So it'll be fun for me. But it's just, as you know, when you're playing music, you have to concentrate. So
Yeah.
all the problems of the world and your job and whatever, there's no room for them in your mind.
Yep.
And so you truly get lost in the music, especially when you're learning. So I'm not only trying to figure out where my fingers go on the fretboard, but I've got to look at and say, okay, how do I make this triad? And is this a major chord, or is this going to be a sus2? Or so I've got to learn how the chords are actually made, which
Right.
that's what I really like. I mean, if you look at these hands, these are not Jimi Hendrix fingers, okay? They are not touching the E on the low E with the thumb. Not going to happen. So I'm never going to be a virtuoso. So like I like slow blues, not fast blues. So but I think the statistician in me, I love learning how everything works. So looking at the major chords, with 1 3 5, and then how we make a minor by dropping the 3 down, or how do we
Yeah.
make a dominant 7. So learning the statistics of music, I think that's why I like it. In fact, my music teacher's like, I don't usually get this far into music theory with someone that's just learning. We kind of start easy with doing, Little Bo Peep and the
Yeah.
simple single, open things. But I love the theory of music because it's just math. Once you learn something and you learn how to make a major, it doesn't change. It is what it is, and it hasn't changed in hundreds of years. Just like
Yeah.
statistics, a mean has been a mean since the beginning.
Yep.
So I love the math of it. So we spend as much time on theory as we do actually playing, because
Sure.
I want to know, because we're researchers, we're diggers. We need to know why something is the way it is. We can't
Yeah.
just look at 40% and be happy. We need to know why that 40% is that way, what's changed, and the same with learning music on a guitar. I need to know why my fingers are going in this direction, and why, if I change just one finger down 2 steps, why that becomes that note. What's the
Yeah.
theory behind it? And I'll tell you, that has been, I did not go into this. I thought I was just going to memorize some songs and be able to play the Eagles and Bob Seger and fake it.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying learning the theory almost more than playing, actually.
Yeah. 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 Interesting. Now, Toni has this really nice Tama Imperial Star drum kit, 5-piece, nice looking kit, beautiful finish on it, all that good stuff. So, do the two of you ever get together and start jamming some stuff at home?
We haven't yet.
Okay.
So I think because with our work has been, fortunately we've been blessed how busy it is.
Yeah.
She's been a little busier because we actually own 1.5 market research companies. We have Klein Partners, but we're also half owners in a website pop-up survey called G-Site with our business partners, Greystone.net in Atlanta. They're a digital healthcare digital consulting firm. So Toni's actually running that, plus doing all the marketing and managing our website and getting me on LinkedIn and getting me, connected with great folks like you. So she's kind of running me and our company and also the G site. So she's pretty busy. So she kind of took a few months off of drums. So she's feeling like, I need to kind of get caught back up. But that's going to happen before the end of the year. So we'll let you know how that goes. But we're not going to be the white the white stripes. So we're not going to be that good ever. But I think too, Matt, I put myself, here's how stupid I am. I put myself on a time clock. We have friends, we live in California in the winter in Palm Springs. We have friends in our community that have a band called the Sandcats. So I made the mistake of telling them that I played. So now they want me to learn Peaceful Easy Feeling by the Eagles by the time we go back in December.
Yeah.
So they're going to call me up when they're playing at our clubhouse with all of our friends around. They're going to have me sit in. So I've got to be gig ready with at least one song by December. Because there's a big difference between playing in your basement and thinking you sound great and getting your guitar face on. And then all of a sudden you've got 100 of your friends looking at you and you've got to be in time with 4 other band members. So, but I did that because I really wanted to push myself because now I'm committed.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted how that goes. But that's what I did to myself.
That's the way to do it. I mean, it's not even just about it's setting a goal, but setting a goal that you can't back out of because it involves
exactly.
Yeah, it works great. I do that all the time. Excellent. I love it. So is there you very much seem to be, the type of person who really, thinks carefully about what you're doing and is very self-reflective and all that good stuff. Have you noticed anything similar in the process of learning music versus, let's say, the process of learning research? Are there any similarities, or are these just two totally different realms?
Oh, in my mind, total similarities.
Yeah.
So I kind of am going about, I'm a very visual learner. So when it comes to learning research, I'm watching videos on people speaking, and I'm looking at visual diagrams of the technique. I learn more by looking than necessarily hearing. So everything has got to be visual for me. Same thing with learning guitar. I actually am subscribing. Have you heard of Marty Schwartz, the guitar guy? He's only guitar, so if you're drum, you wouldn't know. But he's like, when you go on YouTube, he tends to pop up pretty high on things. So I just found him by random. And he's in Tennessee, so he plays with a lot of country guys. He's really actually, you can be a great guitar player, but you can't teach. Right. Just like you can be good at sales, but you're not a good sales manager. So but he's a good teacher. He breaks it down. He repeats it. He does like when you had to learn typing. He does the first few notes, and you do that. Then he adds a second grouping. You do the first and the second. Then he goes 1, 2, 3. So he knows how to teach. So I'm comfortable. So I've learned a lot with him. Now I have my teacher. He does a lot with very visual learning.
Okay.
So I'm getting now where I can watch a guitar player on a video. I look at their fingers and I know what they're playing. And I'm like, okay, he went from a C to an A minor or whatever it was, or
Yeah.
a D to an E minor. So I'm like, I know how to make that shape already. So I can catch on fairly quickly. So
Yeah.
visual learning is kind of how I do it. And it's like a building. You learn simple stats, then you start learning multivariate stats, and you
Yeah.
start practicing and applying them. And I have found I have guitar tabs too. Once I start playing along with the real music and there's other instruments with me,
Yep.
you realize when you're only playing your part, there's times when you aren't playing. You're waiting to come back in, but that timing is boring when you're by yourself. But then when you hear it, that there's the rest of the band is playing, and
Yeah.
you just let it roll for a while, and then
Right.
back. You can't do that by yourself. So playing with others
Yep.
has really helped me, even if it's virtual others.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Excellent. Cool. All right. So let's get back to research for a second.
Yeah, that boring thing research. Yeah,
Oh, hey, I'm never bored talking music. I'll tell you that. Actually,
I hear you.
I thought of like six questions I wanted to follow up with, but that's going to take too long. So let's talk research. Okay, so you've been around, like you said. I'm embarrassed to say some of those things that you were talking about from way back when were familiar to me as well. So as you look out into the future, what do you see out there for research and insights?
It is changing more now than I feel like it did over my prior 30 years, even
Yeah,
even with the technology
agreed.
change that we had. Yeah. Um, it's like the ad agency world went through their their crisis renaissance where it's never been the same for them. And if you look now, I mean, remember Jack Hanamichael, the top
Oh
50?
yeah,
I knew all those brands when I looked at them. Now it's the top 10 account for 80% of everything. So we are now facing the oligopolization in insights, just like advertising did, just like banking did, airlines, healthcare is going through it. You're getting fewer, bigger players, and I wonder it. I feel like it's taking the wild west out of research and the fun and the innovation. I remember when TNS bought us, and our boss said, "Look, we've created all these cool products. I don't want you focusing on creating anything. Just go out and sell what we've already made." And they went, "Wow, nice pep talk, boss. You
yeah,
just bummed me out." So that's another reason I went on my own because I want to create new things and keep pushing myself.
sure.
And these larger companies, I wonder, they're just selling a product. So they're becoming aluminum siding salesmen. And I mean, I'm sure that's great. And it's good products put out there. It's just, that's not for me.
Yeah,
I need to be thinking, and even if it ain't broke, let's break it and come up with something better. I think we're going to start seeing a reversal in the coming years where, just like we're seeing in advertising, these small shops are starting to eat the lunch of the big guys
yeah,
because they're not nimble. It reminds me of that one book. The title says it all. It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. And so in today's world,
yeah,
speed matters. We've got to get faster and give people want answers quickly. And sometimes these big organizations, they can't move. There's just too many people and too much protocol and processes to move quickly. So, and AI is helping us to be able to see patterns quicker. I don't see it replacing humans. At least I hope it doesn't. But I would say to young people getting in research, don't forget the people that came before you. Study your history. When I was getting my master's in advertising, I was reading about the Claude Hopkins, the Rosser Reeves. He's the USP guy, the unique selling proposition. My hero is Leo Burnett. So I read about all the people that had their initials, BBD&O, DMB&B. Those were human beings, and they did amazing things back in the day. Bill Backer, Bill Backer was the I want to buy the world of Coke
yeah,
person. There's a whole story just on that. So in research, we have our legends that we are and have what we have because of what they did. Does anybody know about who, we talk about the Likert agreement scale. Does anybody know that was Francis Likert, who was a professor at U of M in the 50s? So
Yeah.
I know that seems kind of silly, but when you get to know the person that created that technique, you really start understanding what went into it and what that technique really is all about. And I find we're placing such an emphasis on simple, out of the box, like the Qualtrics's and the Medallias, where it's plug and play and simple. Don't forget how to write a good question. I've written more than 2,000
Totally
surveys.
true.
Still
Yeah.
learning,
Yeah.
and don't forget about proper sampling techniques
Mhm.
because quality matters. You get bad data. The problem is a bad number looks like a good number. So
Yeah.
I teach the research class at SHMID. That's an online research class for SHMID, which is a large healthcare marketing professionals organization. So I teach an online class to healthcare marketers to teach them how to be good buyers and users of research. So we go through good and bad sampling, research design, good and bad, how to write a good question, what a bad question looks like, how to spot bad numbers, what questions to ask of your research partner or the sampling panel company.
Yeah.
We know quality is an issue with all the bots and the survey farms. We're probably investing more money in platforms in data quality than we are anything else
Mhm.
because the bad data getting in, people just are whistling past the graveyard. They don't even want to talk about it. But
Don't
we've
even-
got to, because I tell people and they say, "What do I do for a living?" I'm actually in the career development business. I just happen to use market research as my tool because if I don't help my clients make a good, less risky decision that's going to get them a raise and a promotion, then I haven't done my job.
Sure.
Because that's the whole purpose of research is to reduce the risks inherent in all decision making. That's all research is supposed to do. So there's just some guiding principles I hope young researchers coming out don't forget because it's kind of fun and cool to just plug and play, whether it's SurveyMonkey or Medallia, learn how the donuts are made.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. I'm fortunate enough to be on the advisory board for the UT University of Texas at Arlington's Master
Wonderful.
of Science and
Wonderful.
Market Research program. And that's great. The students there are fantastic and they come out with this really well-grounded understanding of research. They know the ins and outs, and they know it, very deep, just not just at a surface level, but those are just the students that have, specifically studied the discipline.
Right.
So the people coming into the field now, to your point, it used to be, all these shops were really focused on quality and the things that they do best. And so they were always hiring people, entry level people, and then putting them through rigorous training. And that's where they learn the craft. And I don't think that happens as much anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the training I went through was spectacular. And the investment in going to research conferences to learn as well. Budgets are getting cut, especially in healthcare. People can't go to a conference unless their presentation gets submitted and accepted and they can speak. Then they can go. Yeah. So, that's a rough one for folks.
Yeah, true. Okay, cool. So Rob, this is media, right? We all, as busy as all of us are, we find time to consume media of our choice, but we're all very choiceful, right? Because we don't have much time. So curious to know, as you think about media for insight, inspiration, or enjoyment, any purpose, what is earning your time these days?
Well, for work or business related stuff, I love Ad Age.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is. Yeah, that's just, of course, lately it's been more like reading the obituaries than anything.
Yeah.
But it is really helpful to understand the pain that everybody's going through across industry, in marketing and advertising, and what they're doing about AI. They always have a really good discussion on what's good, what's bad, what to watch out for. So I love reading Ad Age, and then for research, I love Quirks. I love reading WARC, the World Advertising Research Council, has great articles. IPA puts out a lot of good research. Those are both in London, And as I said, I think I've learned more from European researchers than I have anybody else.
Yeah.
They just seem to be more into what's new and what can we do differently.
Right.
I went all the way to London to go to a conference where the guy brought in the thing. Remember the brain thing you put on your head
Yep.
to track their responses to advertising?
Yep.
It's kind of like almost like galvanic skin response. But nowadays we can do facial coding just on the computer by watching people look at an ad. I mean, it's incredible the technology, how far it's come from wiring a poor respondent up with these all these nodes coming off their head to having the computer be able to do all of that. But and then for non-work, it's all video, and I'm looking at every video on playing guitar
Yeah.
that I can watch. Sometimes I'll look at a song and then I'll say, okay, who's got the best video on how to play that song? I'll watch the pros play it, and then I'll try to play it and like, why does it look like it's their fingers are barely moving, and I'm just like looking like I'm trying to squeeze the life out of a lemon. It's just there's so it's fun to watch the real guys play it and then try to learn breaking it down. How do we do that? So I spend a lot of time on YouTube and certain teachers I have found over time that I really I go back to over and over, like this Marty Schwartz guy. But
Yeah. Cool.
I'm as you can tell behind me, I used to play hockey. That's Toni Esposito. So I was a goalie for 40 years, but I've had too many concussions. So my neurologist said I better quit. And so my wife was very happy. But I used to play hockey several times a week and get pucks
Yeah.
shot in the head. So I loved that thrill. That was kind of my adrenaline rush, was having pucks come flying at me. I realized, okay, I'm not as fast even to get out of the way. So I think, I like guitar because no one's trying to hurt you, so it's safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing up in Minnesota, we played a lot of boot hockey in the cul-de-sac, but
Absolutely.
yeah, it's good times. Good times. Excellent. Cool. All right. So you know what question's coming, Rob. I hope you've had a chance to think a little bit
I
about it.
do, and I have, yeah.
Okay. So you know what's coming. You're stranded on a desert island, right? Maybe Goose Island. Who knows? That's not stranded enough. Okay, so you're stranded on a desert island. You've got three records of your choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are they, Rob?
Actually, it was quite easy. The hard part was I have four. Getting it to three was the hard thing. But
we'll give you an honorable mention.
okay, all right. I'll say that for last time. So my album, obviously, you can tell I really love jazz and blues, but Steely Dan, Asia.
Oh yeah,
It's just such a
total
listenable. Because remember, I was thinking, okay, I'm on an island. I'm going to have to listen to these over and over and over.
Yeah.
So I've got to like the whole album too.
Yeah.
And then going into jazz, I think the greatest. I don't even want to say jazz bassist. I think the greatest bassist is Ron Carter. So his album, The Bass and I.
Okay.
And then going into blues, who I think one of the grandfathers of blues, Albert King, in his studio session with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, interesting.
I think the two of them together was magic, even more so than Eric Clapton and B.B. King in writing with them. But so my honorable mention though was I also love Earth, Wind and Fire. I Am.
Yeah.
I just because it's happy and you can listen to the album over and over and over. So if I'm stuck on a desert island, I'm probably not in the best mood because my wife Toni's not with me. So I need to have a little upbeat. So that's why my honorable mention was Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I really like those choices. So a little Earth, Wind and Fire. I totally understand that. That's just good vibes, man.
Yep.
Cool. Excellent. All right, Rob. Well, this has been a super cool chat. I'm glad we had a chance to do it. Glad I had a chance to meet your lovely wife, of course.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
And just a little PSA for folks. On the way to Rob's house is a couple of T-shirts and some stickers because it ain't rock and roll without merch, right? So
absolutely.
Sounds good. I hope you enjoy that. But hey, I hope we can do this in person sometime, Rob. So
I'm looking
gotta
forward
get to
to
Chicago. It's been too long.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. All right. Let's talk soon and rock and roll.
You got it.